There is perhaps no personal stronger relationship nor greater love than that between a Texan and their favorite college football program, or so everyone thinks. On June 13th, 2024, a Texas appellate court dismissed an appeal for breach of the Texas A&M's permanently endowed donors of the 12th Man Foundation for fiduciary duty and good faith and fair dealing. In so ruling, the court found there is no special relationship giving rise to a fiduciary obligation between a group of endowed football program donors and the Texas A&M Foundation that the law would recognize in this case. Now, to some, the number 12 means a dozen. To others, it could signify the start of an afternoon. But to students of Texas A&M University and fans of the Aggies, it's much more than a number, it's a way of life. It's a symbol of A&M's deep connection to its football team as well as its community. The loyalty and overall camaraderie that comes with being part of the 12th Man Foundation is something that can't be replaced. After all, when you sit on the home side of Kyle Field, the student section is labeled by a large LED display that reads, Home of the 12th Man. Since then, the 12th Man became a symbol of the Aggies' fighting spirit and dedication to their team. The tradition still lives on 100+ years later as thousands upon thousands of Texas A&M fans stand throughout each game ready to support the Aggies in any way possible, except as in this case, when their own needs supersede the Texas A&M permanently endowed donors. The story of the 12th Man dates back over a full century to 1922, when the Aggie head coach Dana Bible called upon former football player E. King Gill, who was in the stands watching the game, to suit up and stand ready to play if necessary. Gill's actions exemplified the core value of selfless service at Texas A&M. The term 12th man is often used in football to refer to the fans or manager. Donors can support the foundation by purchasing season tickets and making annual donations. The tradition of the 12th Man is about Aggies being ready and willing to step up when they are called upon. So it is only fitting that the organization that supports student athletes and helps them to become successful at A&M and beyond have 12th Man in its name. Donors to the 12th Man Foundation are the epitome of the 12th Man tradition. The Texas A&M permanently endowed donors of the 12th Man Foundation are permanently endowed donors to the school and were promised certain privileges such as best available seating and parking at Texas A&M football games, as well as other perks. Now they just want the foundation to do the right thing, which would be to honor the agreements they made in 1994 that prompted them to endow the scholarships. In this insider exclusive Justice in America Network TV special, our investigative team sits down with Brent Coon, who represent these aggrieved donors, to discuss the current status of their 12-year legal nightmare and also to show the takeaway. While donors' loyal commitment to core values of respect, excellence, leadership, loyalty, integrity, and selfless service did not support a legal fiduciary duty in this case in the appellate court, it remains to be seen in the second half of this litigation how the lower court will rule on claims that the foundation breached certain oral or written agreements with the donors. In these billion-dollar sports arenas, the biggest question that remains is who will earn the best seats at Kyle Field? The donors who love the Aggies first, or the new generation of fans who helped fund the rebuilt stadium? This January 2025 CNBC ranking of the top college sport programs show the obvious: greed. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Houston, Texas. It is my great pleasure to introduce Brent Coon to the show. Welcome to the show, Brent.
Good to be here. Thank you.
This is a case I really like that you're involved with, Texas A&M, because it is a case where the Aggies, the 12th Man Foundation, gave their word, promises, but they weren't kept. Tell our audience a little bit about the case.
You know, this goes back to the fundamental nature of man. Are you lying or not? Are you going to hold your word or not? And in this case, A&M lied, and they did not hold their bond and their word to their own alumni.
And these are the people that have forked over lots of money when Texas A&M needed it, right?
One is, all these universities are always saying they need money, but what the real driver is, good or bad, is sports. You know, colleges, particularly the big name colleges, used to be centered around going to the one with the best academics. And the pursuit of the people that would go to your school was driven by the background in high school, their GPA, their SAT scores and things like that, because institutes of higher learning were designed to bring in the best people for that next step in learning. Unfortunately, as a result of media and sports interest, what has shifted gears in all colleges, most colleges, has been their sports. And in sports, that shift has been primarily to football. And in Texas, that's exemplified at no higher level than what we see at the major universities here, including A&M. It is big dollars. It's as big a dollars as the pros. You have coaches making tens of millions of dollars, just the coaches. Insane money.
Put that in proper perspective, the president of the university might make a couple $1 million.
Well, and that's president of the university. How about the president of our country? They make $400,000. These guys make more than that a month to coach football.
So tell us the facts about what happened here. There's a foundation called the 12th Man Foundation. It's part of Texas A&M. It's part of their history. And as I researched this, I saw that it was set up initially, I think after World War II, correct? For returning GIs. If they didn't have money, they could go to school, but they needed someone to fund it. So they had certain precepts, you know, that they honored, like truth, like honor, all that other stuff. They got thrown out the window, I think, in around 1994, when certain oral agreements were made, certain written contracts were made that the benefactors would receive, you know, prime seats, right? Where was that 50-yard zone,
Prime
right?
seat are your choice. So if somebody wants the 50-yard line, dead center front row, they get them. And it was based on the priority of the orders of the people when they booked them. And, you know, there were dozens and dozens that did. But within the timeline of those that did, they get first order. So if the person that signed up first gets first pick every year, and the person that signed up second gets the second pick each year, they're all obviously wanting to get the best seats in the house. So within that group, almost all the prime seats in the stadium for all the football events went to these people that had given the university tens of thousands of dollars in donations as alumni supporters, doing what they thought was the right thing to do in support of their school.
Right. Then we get to the big dollars, as you mentioned before. Texas A&M wants to build a new stadium. Costs a lot of money. What, $450 million?
Insane money. For college football, they're spending as much as you would for a professional stadium.
Disregarding any of the promises that they made to the founders, right? They go out and make other promises to big money donors, right?
Right.
And as a result?
Well, you know, basically what happened is over the years, some alumni, the level of what would be called success became much greater than what a level of success was before. A&M was almost like a community college. It was an agricultural school. The A&M is agricultural mechanical. So most of the people that went to school there back in the old days went there because they were going to be farmers or tied into 4-H. As you mentioned and alluded to, the military link with A&M, they were proud to help sponsor and support returning veterans. You still have a very aggressive active program with ROTC. The supporters and those people that go to school there, they stand for the whole game. It's a very high energy level when you go to these games, and a lot of strong presence within the student body. But what has changed over the years, as they became a very big school, tens of thousands of people go to school there now, And they're outside of just the agricultural area. They're into all sorts of business, including oil and gas. Many of the alumni people that graduate there now go on to make many millions of dollars a year as very successful people. And all of them are most supportive of not just the school, but their football program. The football and how well you're doing, and if you're making it to the big bowls at the end of the year, that's your litmus test for success of your school. And there's an insane amount of money, not just at A&M, but at all the major schools, to drive in tens of millions of dollars a year in support to run these incredibly expensive programs. It's not just the stadiums. They pay the coaches millions and millions. Many of the college coaches make as much or more than professional coaches. It's an insane amount of money that they're throwing around out there. And to give them that money, they've got to get it from somewhere. And the place they get it can't come out of the straight university coffers. It has to come from the donations. So they have basically sold all these seats, lifetime seats, to these people 30, 40 years ago who were mostly mom and pop business owners. They came back from A&M, went back to their little towns. They may have had the local grocery store or the funeral home or something. That's still their success. They've done well enough as they get older to maybe make a $50,000 donation. But that's a lot of money to them. But in exchange, they get lifetime seats to the football games that are their pick of the litter. Now, 30 years ago, a regular ticket was $20 and for anywhere, but as a result of football becoming what it is and all the money from what comes in on TV and sports generally and all the other paraphernalia, it's just a huge deal, NILs and all this other stuff. So they've decided to resell those seats they've already sold to somebody 30 years ago. They decided to just resell them to people with more money.
Yeah, and I want to hone in on that, to resell seats that have already been sold to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fraud.
It is fraud. It's bold-faced fraud. And basically A&M and the foundation, which is the conduit for raising this money, said, we will sell to you for your lifetime, for you and your spouse and your kids. You give us X dollars and we'll give you the best football seats here for as long as you live. So you pay that one upfront deal, you get these in perpetuity. Now, it was at that price point back then, it would have been a lot cheaper for them to buy seats of that quality on an annual basis. But the school wanted to raise this extra money. This was the way it was done. It raised them, a few $1 million, which they thought was a fortune back then. But 20 years later, a few $1 million just pays for that program for a year. So they had to go out and get big money. You have a coach that in the 1990s was making $200,000 a year. So this kind of funding that they got from this first round of donors was able to support that program. Now you have these universities going out like A&M did. They offered Jimbo Fisher $75 million to coach football. $75 million.
That's more than most Pro Bowl coaches get.
That's insane money. And the deal that Jimbo got was that if you don't like me, you can fire me, but you still got to pay me. So they ended up a year or two later not liking him and firing him, and they still paid him. So here's $50-60 million of what they owe him under that contract. They honored it. They honored that contract, and they continued to pay his other $50 million. They didn't honor the contracts they made with the people that created that program, though. Their own alumni. They screwed them.
So when did these original founders or original donors find out they were given a choice? You can still have best seats. You got to fork up more money, right? Substantial more money. When did they find this out?
This is a good decade later, when college football went from local entertainment for the community and off-channel coverage for low money from the networks to the big times where the networks are paying many millions of dollars. There's money flying everywhere for the advertising and promotion and relationships with the universities. That all changed in the 21st century. And the money got insane. The cost of running those programs and to be competitive at that level became what most people would say is insane. And A&M just decided we would rather go ahead and kick all these old timers to the curb. Now that we've taken their money and spent it, we're going to kick them to the curb and we're going to dare them to sue us. They're still alumni. Maybe they won't sue us. Maybe they'll just say, okay, well, if you need more money from somebody else, kick me to the curb. I had a nice little run while I was there. And they violated the code of conduct of the school. A&M's the most unique school in the country in that it prides itself. It's got this history of pride between the university and all their alumni in that our word is our bond. And you never go against your code. It's this code that applies to those schools. And not only in awareness of that code did they breach it, they just slapped these people in the face with it.
The suit was filed originally, I think, in 2013.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, here we are 12 years later. Tell us what has happened with the suit initially. And I don't know whether you want to say this or not, because when I read some of the trial transcripts, I thought, these judges, they're kind of favoring Texas A&M rather than looking at the poor guy that's been screwed.
There's a sordid history associated to this litigation. The history started with what you would argue were questionable decisions by the original judge. And again, this is in the backyard of the university, so politics play a role in almost everything. And in recognition of that, the plaintiffs' counsel were able to get a lot of the cases outside of A&M's own backyard. That took a lot of time, reshuffled the deck. At the end of the day, the cases were basically reconsolidated up in an East Texas region, far away, removed from the adverse implications and potential for bias associated to trying something in A&M's own backyard by relying on the place where the contracts with the people were entered into and where those people lived. So it got a new level of traction there for some time. Unfortunately the efforts that the plaintiffs made to create a class action on behalf of all the people that were ticket holders, because that streamlines the cost. They all get to share in those costs if they can all be in one pot. So the trial court consolidated the cases for all the people that were kicked out of their seats and said you can all be participants in this one case. A&M didn't like that either, so the foundation removed that, challenged that, and took them up on appeal to the appeals court. Unfortunately, while there was good evidence to have a class action there, the courts split hairs and said there's not enough commonality between all these plaintiffs. They all entered into their contract at different dates. There are all different minor differences in what each of them were promised regarding their parking pass or something. They weren't completely uniform. And because of those minor variances in the individual contracts or agreements, that was enough to destroy what they called the common theme of the class. We disagreed, but that was why it was sought as a class in the first place. But as a result of that, years were lost just on the appeal. Then it came back to the trial court, and after it came back to the trial court, A&M then appealed again on the ground. The foundation said some of the allegations in this case involve issues that we don't have legal liability for. And it was hyper-technical issues of interpretation of a statute that provides for free speech. That went up on another appeal for a couple of years. So we're now over a decade into this case, and only two things have happened. A lot of our clients have died because they were older when they joined the program 25 years ago, and they've been letting these clients die off, hoping they'll just all go away from attrition.
But you still represent the estate.
You represent the estate, but they hope that through the process of all of the original plaintiffs dying and now dealing with the estates, that it will die in the vine and there will be a loss of interest with heirs and other people. It's like, this was really upsetting to my parents for the money they spent out there and how wrong they were.
Your parents were some of those victims.
No, not my parents personally, but I'm just saying the heirs that you have there now say my parents were wronged and they were very hurt by all that action. But it didn't implicate me. I'm an heir. I'd like to wrap this up. It's not as personal to them. So A&M knows that. The foundation knows that. And so it's that war of attrition that happens in every kind of case. The longer they can drag it out, the less energy is in the case from the plaintiff side, just because they wear out and they get exhausted. And at that point, they either give up or they take some token payment to going down the road. What you need when that happens is you need the stamina and strength of your lawyers to keep you going, keep you motivated, and to remind them that even if their parent passed away, this is to still get them justice.
Right. What do the endowed donors really want?
The endowed donors want one of two things. Hey, why don't you give us our seats back? We got a contract.
On the 50-yard line.
Why don't you let us pick our seats back and go sit where we're that's number one. For those that everybody in the family has now passed away, which is in some circumstances applicable, it's like, how much were those seats worth for all the years you stole them from us? Because you sold them to somebody else.
Right.
So when you sold my tickets after I bought them. And you've now sold them to somebody else that's just got more money. You sold my seats. So how much did you sell them for? Because that money belongs to me. Thank you for selling my seats. I didn't ask you to sell my seats, but you did anyway. But I'm presuming you sold them for a lot more than I paid for them. So that's a scalper rate, but I get that, not you. And that's that difference in value. Now, what we don't know yet, who were these people that bought these seats? Because the guys that bought these seats are all wealthy, wealthy people. Most of them are all members of the foundation. Most of them are multi-millionaires. And most of them probably know that the seats they got belong to these other people that got kicked to the curb. And I want to know who that who's list is every year. And it varies every year because each year the foundation doles these out to a different set of mega donors. And I want to know, when you got these tickets as a mega donor, were you aware of this litigation? Because it's very well publicized. Did you go ahead and take this blood money tickets anyway?
Have you been able to find this out?
No. We haven't been able to conduct that discovery. We've been in a holding pen for a decade because we're always on appeal. It may be billionaires. It may be former governors. It may be who knows what. But there's a lot of people that are very prominent that are tied to A&M and to the foundation, and they are sitting in my clients' football seats.
Sure.
They're not saying, hey, I bought your tickets back for you. Come on in. I'm rich and you're not, but I bought your seats back for you, and I'm giving them back to you. There's none of that going on. It's like, I got your seats, go pound sand.
How do you see this case being resolved? It's still in litigation, right?
Still in litigation, and you never know how it's going to be resolved. But my recommendations, if our facts, I'd say it this way. If we can get to trial, their damages are what somebody else has been paying for each of those seats every year in the past. And if they don't give them their seats back at the trial, it will be for the amount that they would most likely be paying for every year in the future, which could be tens of millions. The donors that are giving them this money that get these seats, they're not really paying just for, that's what the value of that seat is. Nobody's going to, you can't list a seat to sit there for $5 million a year. But you have people that are probably paying that for the privilege of sitting there, just for the status. And that status for that seat means that much. And that seat doesn't belong to them. And it doesn't belong to the foundation. It belongs to the person they sold it to. And they're not letting them have it. So either let my people go sit in those seats that they paid for 30 years ago, or not give them their money back, which is what they want to do. So we'll just give you your money back. That's not how these deals work. If you breach the contract, it's not what you paid, it's what it's worth. And we want what it's worth.
Please elaborate on, you mentioned to me, they bought these tickets for life. How does it actually read?
The basic agreement between the foundation and all of the donors, this thing that's in common with the written and oral representations and how they honored the ticket purchases in the past, was that they get the ticket. And there's a lot of other perks that come with us. We're just talking about the football seats, but they get their football seats of their choice each year. They get to pick the seats. I want the 50-yard line, even if they want the 40 or something for whatever reason. They get their pick each year, and that applies to everybody they bought the ticket for. So if they bought 4, it's like it's for me and my wife, my 2 kids, that stays with all 4 of them until they die. Now, it's not something you pass on. It's your user right to opt for that seat each year.
Those kids, it still is effective for them.
Yeah, those kids still should have the right to sit in the seats they want to sit in, and they have the right to stand in their parents' shoes as their heirs over the value of the seats that were stolen from their parents.
Okay, so just for the record, seats have been offered to these original donors, correct?
Goal line seats back into the stadium.
And have they had to pay more money for those seats, or just
Say if you want the crappy seats down at the end zone and be disrespected by accepting them and coming down here and probably waiving your rights to these claims you're making, we'll make a spot with the other 100,000 people for you here, even though you don't get to sit anywhere worth a dang, worth a view or anything else. And it's insulting. Who would want to go to an A&M game after they had ripped your soul out, taken a major part of whatever your retirement fund was from your small business and inducing you to this? Most of these people were mom and pop business owners. 50 grand was a ton of money for people like that. The Hines family, he was like, he had a little funeral home in a little small town. This was a huge amount of money for them, and he did it because they loved the school. And they loved the football program. They loved the passion and the network and the feel they had with the bond they had with the school. And after all of that love that they had for their own university that they graduated from, they were then just kicked to the curb, spit on and kicked, literally kicked to the curb. Who would want to go back and watch a football game and support that foundation after they did that to you?
Let me ask you, in the community, amongst the community being Texas A&M alumni, right? How is this set with them? I mean, is there an outcry? Are there people in favor of, this suit? What do you hear?
You hear almost nothing because this has been bogged down in appellate issues for a decade. And as a result, there's been very little substantive discovery. There's been very little media inquiry. Most people don't know anything about it. I would suspect that 99.9% of the university campus knows nothing about this. What we do know is that the foundation knows, and the foundation runs things up there. And the foundation has known how they do business ever since these deals were generated in the 90s and what happened to those peoples in the years since. They're very aware of it. My question for all of them is, why did you let that happen? You're a big shot. You're very influential with the chancellor, the governor, and many other persons here. Why have you allowed this to happen? And for many of them, it's like, what are you doing in my client's seats? And we know what they're doing. They're enjoying a good view, sitting on top of my client's shoulders.
What is the next step here? What's happening legally?
The next step is finally, A&M Foundation has run out of anything they can appeal. So that means we're now going to be in a trial court doing trial court work, which means we can go take depositions, we can order discovery, documents and other things to be produced, and that's when hopefully all hell will break loose.
Right, it's taken this long to do that, huh?
It's taken 13 years just to get to this point.
Wow, it's just like every one of the precepts that the foundation expounds and supposedly believes in has been violated, hasn't it?
Every positive aspect of the code, honor, truth, transparency, dedication, every one of those has been violated.
It's terrible. Well, we wish you much success. Please keep us informed, and thank you for being on the show.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.